Good afternoon. This is Victoria Beal with the Ohio LTAP Center, and very pleased to be partnering with Odot's Office of Safety today to bring you a webinar on the GIS crash analysis tool, also known as GCAT. Mike McNeil will be our first presenter on the webinar, and he's going to kick things off for us after I go over a couple of housekeeping items with you. First off, there is a question pod in your GoToWebinar box. Please make sure to put your questions in throughout the webinar, so that way we can address those questions that you have during the presentation. The second thing is we are attempting to record the webinar, but if we're not successful for some reason, luckily you are here and able to see it firsthand, because there have been updates that have occurred actually that were published today from my understanding, and you're going to be the first ones to get to see the new information. So with that, I believe that's all I have. Are you ready to go, Mike?
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Victoria. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending the GCAT webinar today. Hopefully, whether you've used the tool or not in the past, hopefully this webinar provides some good training for you and hopefully some new information as far as like how to search crash data and analyze the data that you're kind of looking for. So we kind of have this set up in just two portions. The first section here I'm going to cover is the actual GCAT website itself here on the TIMS website that you can see on the screen, and that's going to be geared around like searching crash data. And then the second portion that it's going to go into is using the Excel file for the crash data, which is more of like analyzing that crash data. And colleague Derek Troyer is going to kind of go over the CAM tool and some of the updates that he's done with that. So first, I'm just going to kick it off with the GCAT website itself, and just pretty much walk you through it. It's only two screens really, as far as on the website itself, as far as like searching crash data. So what you see here is the TIMS page, and this is our transportation information mapping system. And you can see in the top toolbar there, it's just gis.dot.state.oh.us/TIMS. But if you just go to Google or the Odot homepage and just type like Odot TIMS, it should bring you to this web page right here. And in the lower left corner, where it says Crash Data Search, is the GCAT login button. And then when I select that, it brings us to just a screen here that kind of gives you just some information about GCAT. If we have any like updates that are going on with the system, or any maintenance related items, that information is usually listed here at the top portion. Majority of the time, when you log in, you'll go straight to the existing GCAT user right here with the login button right below it. But if you, again, forgot password or if you don't currently have a MyOdot account and need a GCAT user account, you can click the information for new user here to set up an account. The one item I do want to note from this page, under the existing GCAT user section right here, there's a little note that says, please ensure to include the text for Odot Online / in front of your username, and that's just so when you hit the login button, you'll have that Odot Online with the / and then your username following that. So that's a way that you can, that's the procedure to log in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and click login. And I'll just bring everything up. So what you can see here on the screen is pretty much like I mentioned, there's two screens to the website itself. The first screen is what you see here, and this is going to be what we want to search on for crash data. And then the second screen is going to be the map that shows the crashes plotted out. So it's kind of, the website itself is just pretty straightforward as far as those two websites. And so the first one that we're looking at here has all the information, and you can view everything as within these 5 tabs as being pretty much like a mirror of the Ohio Crash Report form. We've kind of gone through the crash report and pulled out information that we feel is beneficial to users to be able to search on. And those are some of the items that I'll walk through here in some of these tabs that you can select within your, to build your query. And so when you actually download the data set, there's a lot more information that's involved with the data set that you can then search on within the Excel file. But a lot of the upfront stuff here from this website is information that we felt that the users pretty much use the most frequently. So I'm just going to kind of walk through each one of these tabs, and they're just all set up just as selectable. When you click it, it gives you a drop down of some more items. So in the when occurred tab, we just have 2 items in there, one for year and one for month, and both expandable down. We pretty much like to try and keep 10 years of crash data available to users. A lot of our analysis and a lot of the analysis that external users do is 3 to 5 year time frames, but sometimes we do like to take it up to 10 years. So we like to provide that option on there as well. 2019 crash data, we'll probably be receiving some updates through the end of March is when public safety closes down the system for the previous year of data. So about another 2 months until 2019 data should be closed down. And the year is one of the required items when you're setting up your query. That just selecting at least 1 year minimum is one of the requirements to setting it up, just so the system knows like that some sort of time frame that you're looking at, so it doesn't try and search all the years that you see there on the screen. So you can see next year how that kind of has like a little asterisk there. That's just one of 2 required items on this page at a minimum. So again, just for the when occurred tab, just year and month. Moving down to the second tab is the crash details, and this has 3 items within it. The first one is crash type, and these are all the different types of crashes that, based on the report that comes in, that we associate to like the crash being of a certain type. And again, all these are just set up as selectable icons. The second one is the crash severity, and so a crash can be labeled on. There's 5 different injury severities in which a crash can be labeled as, starting with the fatal injury and then moving down to property damage only. So each person involved in a crash gets assigned one of these 5 different crash severities. And then the last one, there's the document number search. That's not as commonly used. A lot of times we use the CAM tool to be able to get the document numbers for crashes. So that's just kind of an item that you kind of use more in a reverse stage, but I'll just kind of skip over that. The third one, attribute area, is emphasis areas. And you can see all these labeled out here. There's just one drop down within that. And these are specific like areas that we focus on and track it quarterly at Odot, and work with a lot of our agencies, Public Safety Patrol and various other agencies around the state to kind of, we have quarterly meetings to try to track these emphasis areas These are certain things within here are large contributors to our fatals and serious injuries year in and year out. And so that's again why we just felt that be able to click on these and search crash data form is beneficial to users. So you can see the alcohol and drugs there, speed related, senior drivers and younger drivers, and then it kind of gets into some roadway attributes as well. And again, these are all just set up. If you don't click on anything in any of these tabs, or click on any of these emphasis areas and you run your crash data, you'll get all crash data for that particular intersection or corridor. But the second that you select any of these, it'll filter down to just what you've selected. So if I ran crashes for what you can see here on the screen, this would be an alcohol related, any crashes that show up on the map and that I download into the Excel data file will only be alcohol related crashes. So those are our emphasis areas. The fourth tab here is the driver vehicle attributes, and this gets more into like the details of the crash. So this is probably like the least commonly used tab out of the 5, because it really gets into type of unit, special function, traffic control type, contributing circumstance, and then sequence of events. And all 5 of these categories right here are pulled just directly from the crash report. So I think on sequence of events, there's like 52 codes on the crash report form. All 52 of those then are listed right here in the same order that they would appear on the report. And so, yeah, again, for any of these within the drop down, can be selected. And so like here, I've selected guardrail face. Again, any crash data I download then would have the guardrail face selected on the crash report form for any of the crashes. And these are also set up so that you can select multiple items, and then it would just have to hit all those qualifiers to be in the data set download. And then the last one here is the location tab. And so this first category for crash location is, again, just pulled straight from the crash report as far as the items that an officer can enter in for crash location. Next, we have the counties. And then the city, village, and township codes below those as well. Okay. So I think there's just over 1,300 townships in Ohio, and so like all those townships will show up in the drop down here with the county code below that, just so you know that you're selecting the right one, just because there's a lot of duplicate township names. And then the last one here is what we refer to as our Nlf Id Search, and that stands for like our network linear feature identifier, and it's basically just taking a crash, and it's where we have it snapped on our roadway inventory system. So our crashes get assigned within a county, and then within that on that county route, then they get assigned a log point as well. So this is just a way to kind of search for specific roadways within a county if you know like your begin and end log points. And so the TIMS program can be used to get those begin and end log points, which can then be just plugged directly into here. And if we have time towards the end or something, I can maybe show an example of how to pull those log points. But basically how this operates is we select a county, it loads all the routes that we have in our inventory for that county. We select a roadway, and then it just simply asks us for the begin and end log points. And once you enter those in here and hit add section, when it runs the crashes, then it runs it specifically just for that route in that county between those log points. And it also will include both sides of the roadway. So if you have a divided roadway, it'll populate crashes on both sides of the roadway now. That's one of the new changes. So that's pretty much the, as far as setting up a query for crash data. These 5 tabs is again, mirrored after the OH1 report, Ohio Standard Report. And then basically how you set it up is really up to your discretion. The only 2 requirements, again, are in the when occurred tab, just a year must be selected. And then secondly, in the location tab at the bottom, some sort of location aspect needs to be selected. It can be as general as just selecting a county, and then once we go to the map, we'll zoom into a certain area or intersection that we're looking to run crashes for. Or if you know that you want it narrowed down more within a specific city or whatever, then you could go ahead and select that here, and then you don't need to select the county because you've narrowed it down even more. So just some sort of location aspect so it doesn't try and run crashes for the entire state. So I'm just going to kind of walk through a couple examples now of setting up crash searches within the system. So I guess I'll just hit these, cover these 2 buttons here. So for this first example, the view and map button, you can see here at the top and bottom, along with the download button next to it. And then the clear button just wipes the screen clear of anything you've selected throughout any of the drop downs. So the view and map button basically pulls all the crashes that we have location aspect information for. So for a specific crash, we're able to locate it, snap it to one of our roadways, then that's a crash that would show up in the view and map once it goes to the map. The download button is more for you're not so concerned about like zooming into a certain intersection and pulling crash data for a specific location. You're just trying to get general stats for maybe an entire county. So you're just looking for raw numbers for the entire county. So we can just download our crash data directly and not have to go to the view and map. So in the first example, if I just select for like when occurred, if I just select 2018 as in my crash year, I come down to location tab, and for the county here, I'll just select Adams County. So 1 year for Adams County, and then I can hit view and map. And there it tells me 595 results. So that's how many crashes we have in the system for 2018. And if I continue on to hit view and map, which is kind of like, again, this is like the second screen to the website. You can see the 595 crashes plotted out for Adams County. And if I just turn on my county layer there, you can see all those crashes within Adams County for 2018. And so if we didn't want to go, say we just wanted to download all that data, we could also just hit the download button right here. And then when I hit download, it'll just send it directly to like a CSV file, which we then import into a CAM tool. So that's the difference between these 2 buttons right here, is view and map and download. I'm just going to clear everything out. And on this next example, I'm just going to kind of almost select something from each tab, just so you can see kind of how a crash query gets built. And then we'll move into the viewing it in the map and kind of like selecting some information once we get to the view and map page. So for this example, I'm going to be looking at motorcycle related crashes that are just fatal and serious injuries involved for 2 different counties, Stark and Summit, over a 3-year period. So that's kind of like the overview, and I'll just walk through it here then. So starting with the when occurred, again, we need to let the system know our time frame that we want to look at. So I'll select 2015, 16, and 17 as a 3-year period here. Then under crash details, I'm going to click on crash severity here, and I'm just going to select fatal and serious injury suspected for the severity types. And then under emphasis areas here is where I'm going to select motorcycle. You could also come under crash type right here, or no, under unit type, which is the next tab here. Under driver vehicle right here, you could go type of unit, and you could select motorcycle here as well. But just to make it easy, I'll just go from in emphasis areas here and select motorcycle. And then I'm just going to go ahead and select those 2 counties as well. So I'll type in Stark and Summit. So just to kind of go over again everything I've selected here. I started with my years of 2015, 16, and 17, then jumped down to the crash severity of just fatal and serious injuries involved that were motorcycle related, and then the 2 counties of Stark and Summit. And I'll go ahead and hit view and map. And it gives us 209 results. And it's loading the crashes right now. And when they do appear, it kind of already zoomed into the counties, but it'll focus those on the crashes within those 2 counties.
Hey, Mike, a quick question for you that came into the chat pod. It wants to know, does it search by local street name?
Searching by local street name, that's something that once all the crashes are downloaded into the CAM tool, we do have like one of the columns in there is like the street and then the street reference, and typically names get filled in with those if they got filled in on the crash report. So that would probably be the location where you'd be able to search by street name itself. Searching on the Nlf Id Search through the GCAT website itself here, we just go off of like the route numbers for like either county routes, municipal routes, or any of our Odot maintained stuff. And when Derek gets to the CAM tool, we can have him point out where that to show you where that column is.
Thanks. That's the only question we have so far.
Okay. So what you can see here on the screen is crashes plotted out. You can see the purple and the red. On the far left side of the toolbar over here, blue toolbar upper left corner. if I set the visible layers, and just for visual representation, I hit the county boundaries there, so you can see how all these crashes again are within Stark and Summit County. And then up at still within that toolbar here, we're currently on the Layers tab. If I go one tab over to the Legend, you can see how the red represents fatal injuries and the purple represents the serious injuries. So that gets you the legend associated with the crash points. And then one other thing I'll show you here is if you just want to like look at a crash report for like a specific crash, just like say 1 or 2, just to actually like view the report, you can zoom into any dot on the map. I'll pick this one right here. And then again, working in the blue toolbar at the top left corner, if I hit the Identify Features button, which is the third one from the left, and then just come to the map here and just click on the point, it'll select that crash point, and then in this drop down where it says county, if you just come down to crash details, it then provides us with the details specific to that one crash, because there was just one that we selected there. But at the top, like the third link down here, it says crash report link. And if I select that, it'll pull up the crash report at that location. So you can see the motorcycle involved at a roundabout location. So that's just kind of a quick way on the website here. If you wanted to, if you maybe knew a crash location on here where you just wanted to view like a quick report or two, and that's again, you can use that Identify Features button and then the crash report link there. And then again, all the information with the crashes associated there in that column as well. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to the main screen here and clear everything out. And in this last example, this is pretty much like the bread and butter of GCAT, being able to search specific intersections and stretches of road and pull crashes for those. Just because GCAT itself has historically been just like a tool to look back at historical crash data 3-5 years and really see what kind of trends have been going on. And so in this example, I'm going to just show you how to draw a circle and then also like draw a polygon or around a stretch of road, and how to kind of go through that process. And then we'll jump into the CAM tool, and where Derek will show you some information. So let's see. So in this one right here, again, just starting with a blank screen, I'm going to come into the When Occurred tab, and I'll just select the same years, 2015, 16, 17 for my years. And then in the Location tab, I'm just going to select one county for Madison. And so a lot of times, when just personal preference, when I'm running crash data through GCAT here, again, these are the only two requirements as far as minimum requirements that you have to select, and that's year and county. And just because when I'm running crash data, I like to get all the crashes that are occurring at a location. And then once I download that into the Excel file, then I can see trends that have been developing, increasing, decreasing, total numbers, that sort of thing. So a lot of times I don't maybe know what those trends are, so that's why I just like to pull all the crash data and then see how it develops, versus getting in here and selecting a lot of specific attributes as far as like emphasis areas and things like that. So this one I'm just going to leave pretty generic. 3 years of crash data in Madison County, and even the way that the system is set up, this is the route I have to go, even though I'm only going to be looking at like one stretch of road and one intersection within the county. So I'm going to hit View and Map, because I want to go to the map and narrow my search down even more. So it gives me, for that county, over 3 years, it gives me just over 3,000 crashes, but that's, you know, you can just basically move past that step, because we're just going to be looking at a honed in area on an intersection. So a lot of times the location will be familiar to you, so you can just start zooming into the map where you're going to be looking at running your crashes for. So even though the crashes haven't technically loaded on the map yet, you can just go ahead and start zooming in, and they'll populate on there. So you can see this intersection here that I have of State Route 29 and US 42. And what I'm going to draw is just an intersection, or a circle around the intersection. Crashes should be populating here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to leave this on the default that it's selected to is point right here. And in this drop down, you can see point and circle, and then line and polygon. And so it's just a personal preference on however you want to run or like search the data. But point and circle are the same thing. Line and polygon are essentially the same thing. We'll just leave it as the point default, and that's defaulted to 250-foot buffer. So we'll just click draw right here, which is right underneath the buffer. I just come over to the map, left click one time. It draws the circle at the intersection, and then I just hit search. And so even though we had 3,000 crashes for the county for those 3 years, this is the intersection of focus that we want to look at. And so in the lower left corner here, you can see it gives me 11 entries. So there's basically, over the 3-year period, there's been 11 crashes at this intersection. Say I wanted to then maybe extend the search area along this stretch of road down to this like Snyder Lane intersection. So here's where I'm just going to click on polygon and then click draw as well. And then anytime I left click, it'll drop a point. And then when you double left click, it'll lock your shape in. And then I can hit search again, and it's going to add this section to the intersection that I was looking at. So we got 11 crashes at the intersection. When I add in this other section, it jumps it up to 19. And you can see, obviously, the stuff that's been highlighted within that buffer zone is when we go to download the data set, this is what it's going to download, these 19 crashes. So just the way the system's set up, you just have to go to the county, and it's going to show all the crashes. Just know that you just zoom into your particular area, like we did right here, and then just draw your buffer zones. And once you hit search, then it just locks in those buffer zones. So again, this is pretty much the main piece of GCAT that makes it a beneficial program to users as far as being able to run crashes at intersections and stretches of road here. And so I'm just going to continue on with these 19 crashes then. Data set, right? Yeah. So in the bottom right corner of export data, you just click that drop down, and the first one says to Excel. And then we're going to hit that same button, and it says download. And it put these 19 crashes then into an Excel file, which is just the data transfer file. And so I'm just opening it up just to save it down. Okay, I can just throw it on that. Okay, I'll just hit save.
So one important thing about that file is it only includes the codes. It does not convert it to text. So, second.
Yep. So basically, what I've showed you now is the first part of the website, which is the search and crashes on GCAT. So we kind of went through some examples, different things you can select and draw on shapes and stuff. So, and then I just downloaded that data set of those 19 crashes for those shapes you saw. So as I pass it over to Derek Troyer here, he's going to show you in the CAM tool Excel file then like how that data gets imported and analyzed and the charts associated with it and things like that.
Yeah, so if you ever get in here, like here's crash severity, and we'll take these codes and switch them and convert them over to text values just so the charts and graphs make a little bit more sense. So you're welcome to use this raw output file. In previous versions of GCAT, this was not as accessible as it is today. So if you ever get a file and you're curious of why it isn't text, it's because it hasn't been text for quite some time. It's just kind of legible. So if we go back to Tim's, up here, the same place where he got back to his filter by crash events, you can get the CAM tool. We have CAM tools sprinkled throughout all of our tools, I think. So however you get the CAM tool, that's fine. We probably in the shorter term, if you probably want to keep downloading new ones because there's been some more dramatic updates in recent time. So we probably will get some good feedback and be making enhancements as we move through the rest of this month and over the next few months. So I would just recommend getting a new one. It's obviously my fourth one. Maybe not today, but the fourth one. So opening up that CAM tool, and this is really the piece that starts to help you analyze the data. And I would support that. GCAT has kind of expanded beyond just a site-specific analysis tool where it's been used for regional purposes, where that's where that big data download to understand globally what's happening in your county and bigger looks at what's going on. So a lot of the functionality is the same. You'll notice that there's a lot fewer and different color tabs at the bottom, but don't worry, most of the tabs are still in here, and I'll walk you through the process if you're familiar with CAM tool. So the CAM tool, first thing is we're going to import the data and convert it from all those codes over to text, which is more like readable information. So within the toolbox is kind of where the bread and butter is for this application. There's import, analysis, collision, diagram, miscellaneous, and you can click through all these tabs and find out more information. But obviously the first thing you have to do is get your data in here. So you click the button and then it asks you a question to go select the file, and then hopefully stop that, downloads. We'll take those 19 crashes and then we'll bring it in. I did select the right file, didn't I? Or did I select the CAM tool? I did this morning. It's awesome when I select the wrong thing. No, that's it. All right, let me select this one. Computer is mad. There we go. More try. No one? No, that's this morning. This one. Maybe that was my problem. So it has brought in a lot of the information, converted crash type to codes, crash severity to codes. You have filter capabilities, so if you click on any of the header row, it will allow you to filter for a specific severity or any of these attributes. The new full crash data page has been reordered a little bit than previous ones to match more along the lines of what the old crash data tab appeared. So putting more of the information up front that we feel is useful to engineers. So going back to the bread and butter of GCAT and CAMS was meant to be a site-specific, project-specific tool and application. So if you're using it for other purposes, that's great, and we're trying to support that with these tools, but the raw kind of crash data page is set up mostly for that purpose. So going through location information over to severities, and then over to roadway information, so your functional class, facility types, national highway system, and then we'll get into some flags of when things occurred, what the weather was, down into more of those emphasis area flags that Mike had mentioned about, so alcohol-related, drug-related, school zone, motorcycle. So if you wanted to see were any of these motorcycle, no, but there were definitely some that were speed-related, so you could filter and see that there were 3 that were speed-related if you wanted to look. We're looking at the raw data. And then you'll start to get into some of this ODPS information where the question about road name came up earlier. And here's where Caroline and I come in handy. So pretty much this location did not have any street name for the on or the at. It was purely just route information, but your names would show up in these fields. And it might not appear exactly as it does on the crash report form because we try to split up some parts of what the officers entered to better match a geocoding service. So like if they put West Broad Street all in one box, we try to break out the west and the street into their appropriate fields. So that would already be done in this DPS area as well. But then you'll start to get into your unit stuff, and so if you want to know age demographics, if you want to know gender, if you want to know what they were doing or what they hit, what the unit types were, what the traffic control was at the location, all of that is for Unit 1. Odot's Unit 1, or this Unit 1 in the CAM tool is typically, I can go over here, it's typically set to the unit at fault, which is not necessarily the Unit 1 of the officer. This has just been done historically to always put the Unit 1 at fault vehicle in this position at Odot. You can see right next to column CC, we're already to CC, is the original ODPS unit number. So we do flip them around a little bit just so that at fault unit becomes in the Unit 1 position. But just carrying on, so the Unit 2, Unit 3, and that's pretty much the rest of this site is over here on the left, just like in what Mike had said in Web Viewer, you can click on the report, and hopefully, and this link will work for everyone 2011 or newer. So pretty much we're getting close to 10 years. I assume some of the lag is due to me being wireless and trying to present. So should be faster on your computer, hopefully. So this is a generator report at 42 and State Route 29. It kind of shows more of the information. like I said, we summarize a lot of this stuff for a CAM tool layout, but here you can actually get the text and the diagram associated with that specific crash. So this is the big change in CAM tool, but don't fret, the button for the legacy tables is there. But if you're really using something, please let Caroline, Mike, or myself know, and we'll get it updated. It looks like the text is a little cut off, but if you run this, it's super fast because we actually built it off not 2003 technology, and it makes a lot more pivot tables, charts, graphs, all on one page. And the intent of throwing these all on one page is we don't want you printing out charts and graphs to attach as appendices to your reports anymore. We want you to be pulling out charts and graphs that are specific to telling the story. So if it's not information that we need to decipher or use to make the decision on why funding should be or what the crash pattern is or contributing factors are, it's really just clutter in the grand scheme of things. So a lot of this is a little bit built out, hopefully better and more intuitive. You'll see that we kept totals, fatalities, and serious injuries through most of the charts and graphs. So that way you understand at the four-way intersection, there were 11 crashes, 1 was a fatality, or whether they were occurring at what hours they were occurring. Those just have total crashes, probably because the charts and graphs are messing up. So this is definitely something that is easily updated. GCAT is not as easily updated. CAM tool is, we maintain it in our office, so we can constantly tweak this and publish new ones pretty easily, as long as all the staff is here to get that updated. So they separated them instead of having it all into one chart, tables. I don't even remember what the tabs are called. I'll find out in a second. We have a crash tab, so this is kind of everything that happened in the crash. This is some Unit 1 level analysis. Let me move this. Scoot. Unit 1 level analysis here, so you can tell at the Unit 1 level what the vehicle was involved, what they struck, what they were doing before, what speed, what age they were, and any other contributing factors for that unit. This, because we don't have a lot of data in it, this is our emphasis area charts. I think this is in our previous CAM tool as well. So you can see if you download more about that planning or jurisdictional level of our emphasis areas that we track in the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, you can kind of get an idea of where your percentages fall. I think down here at the bottom is total crashes. So this one kind of gives a better look at it already knows what the highest year is and kind of just gives you a breakdown for your specific site. And you can take this and make comparisons over to the statewide chart or to kind of understand are our percentages normalized for this area, for this site, or for our region. Very similar is this guy. So let's say it was just the intersection, and sorry that these names are kind of nomenclature. So four-legged, stop-controlled intersection. You can tell if your site is higher or lower than the statewide average for that specific site. And since this is kind of a muddy analysis with intersection in a segment, they might not line up 100%. So site-wide passing is probably more about the tangent than actually at the intersection. But if you need some high-level, instead of using the old percentages chart, you can now use this. There's a lot of site types in here. The only issue right now is that if it's corridor-based, it's really not good at doing corridor-based analysis. It's really a single site segment or intersection. And finally, to wrap up, because Victoria loves these, and they provide some meaningful information for regions and jurisdictions. If you have crashes, it will summarize your intersection, non-intersection crashes by severity, and kind of give you the top 3 different crash types for each of these. So kind of hopefully replacing a little bit of what our office has generated in the past as well. So you didn't see something you like, that's fine. Go back to the toolbar, click this populate legacy thing, and hopefully it'll make all the charts and graphs. Although I keep pointing you back to the old ones because that's really what I want to start you to use. So see how some of these had percentages, numbers. If you want to know the percentage, you come back over here and you can say, I want to know, you right click on the chart and graph for whichever column you want, and you say show value as percentage of column total, and it instantly changes it to a percentage. So once again, right click, show value as, you can do no calculation and you get your value back. Value, show value as, you can do grand total. That doesn't work for some charts. It usually knows that these are individual things. So this grand total will be a little bit different. Sorry, my voice is going now. And it'll give you the percentages across all severity levels for every crash type. So you can see that PDO is winning with 90%, and most of them are angle crashes, which is surprisingly really good news for this location. But again, if you want to come back over to here, you'll have all these old charts, graphs, and your histograms. And then one update, if you've ever had problems with the collision diagramming tool, find out. Hopefully we've solved some of your issues. It will be slightly slower for everyone, but not dramatically. And hopefully it will generate you a collision diagramming. Caroline and I now understand this fully, so we could actually build an update for this in the application. If anything else is fully missing in here, it's not deleted, don't fret. You can just go to unhide by right-clicking on any of the tabs. If you really want to see the CMF or CRF table, if you really want to see, what's the other one? The crash rate calculation sheet, if you're still using that for some reason, it's still here. Just go right-click on any of the tabs at the bottom, go and hide. They're also a different way, because I think I hit the button. All the references have been updated thanks to Caroline, so if you want to know crash types, here are crash types by Odot's definitions. There's manner of collision that the officer gives us, but at times they don't know the difference. I don't know the difference between backing and rear to rear. I think it has to do with one vehicle in motion, but I'm not 100% sure on that, and I don't know that the officers know. So we try to pigeonhole them into ones that are more aligned with engineering countermeasures. So that's the reference table, and there used to be a button on here, and I think it's missing at the moment, so I will go fix that. I think it was down here somewhere, but there will be a pink or orange button that shows up back here again to kind of unhide some of these tables if you need code values or want to understand what the references are related to. With that, I want to leave time for questions.
And if anybody has any questions, they can enter them in the question pod. I haven't seen anything beyond the one that came in pretty early on. Well, actually, no, I do see one more in here. Let me go ahead and read this off to you. It says, to be clear, by not selecting an option under a category, is that the same as selecting all?
So this is referencing, I'm assuming, GCAT. So yes, so between blue bars and programming, it's an and function. So this is 17 or 16 or 15, or give me all of 17, 15, 16, or 17. And then it's and, what else do you have selected here? Just the crash location. and Madison County. So it will only give you Madison County for these specific years. If you selected, say, crash type of angle, it will only give you Madison County animal crashes for those specific years. So it's kind of inside a thing. It will give you our what I call ands. Can anybody in the room help me translate that? Or Victoria, can you help me translate that? I hope that answers the question.
Here's another question for you. It says, are crash types entered directly from police reports, and are they checked/corrected if needed?
So the crash type and the CAN tool are corrected as best we can. There is probably a 30-page process that we use that includes directions of vehicles approaching and leaving, and their pre-crash actions and circumstances. So we try our best. It is one of the hand log things. So if you ever have a crash, and I think in Mike's detailed course, he goes over this, but if you ever have a crash that you need to change its location, there's a specific way that we're able to change that location in a few other fields, and crash type is actually one of those fields that ODOT owns, and so we're allowed to change it. We do not touch any information that comes from the officer. So if it's marked as an injury type that's not, that you know is not to be true, we have to go back to the officer to get that updated, and we can only do that in open years of crash data. So a lot of the things we change are specific to location. So there's 10 or so fields that we change, but not a lot.
Is there a guide or reference on the ODOT site that explains the CAM tool?
So Mike has slides out. Good luck with our website. So if you just search ODOT GCAT, hopefully.
You know, I can send them out to everybody who's on the call too.
Yeah, there's slides out there. I'm not sure if Mike's done. There's previous recordings of this.
For the sake of time, don't worry about it. I'll get it out to everybody. Next question. I was wondering how the crash report is transcribed. Is it manual, or does ODOT have a digital process?
So our data comes from public safety. About 80% of our crashes are electronically submitted to the state. So through either vendor or a state-provided application. The other 20% are paper copies that are sent directly to public safety. Public safety pays a keying vendor to key in that data, and then that data, after being keyed and QC'd, gets sent to ODOT. So about 20%, so 60-ish thousand crashes every year get hand keyed.
As of now, how many months of crash data is in the system for 2019?
So we don't go by months. It's more scary to go by jurisdiction. So depending on your jurisdiction, it could be better or worse. So anybody that's electronically reported, so if you get a nice shiny PDF with a zephyr dot up in the upper left-hand corner, where's CAM tool go to? Come back. No. Like one of these guys, then reverse that. If it comes up like this, they are paper reporting agencies. These are the ones that would be delayed the most. If they're electronic, they're probably more than likely getting their data in, and probably would, but feel free to reach out to us if you have questions on that, and I can provide a link to Victoria to kind of help with some of those questions.
Specificity of crash details is entirely dependent on how well the original crash report was filled out by the officer on scene, or was there an evaluation or processing done by ODOT after the fact?
Only in a safety study is additional processing conducted, and we do not go back and change anything supplied by the officer. So very limited data are we changing, and that is specific to ODOT fields. So really just location and crash type, and I think roadway departure, and that's the only things that we pretty much change. Otherwise, it's the officer's data and should just be pointed out in the study.
The next question is referencing 2019, but I think they're talking about 2018. There was a long wait for December 2019 crash data and stated 2019 data will be closed in March. What certainty do I have as a user that data searched is 100% complete or up to date?
So GCAT has been not live data the entire year. Now it is actually ingrained in the weekly process. So right now, unless I can get DPS to change their mind, we get Sunday night loads to our system. And so the big bulk of the information crashes get added to GCAT and all of our tools on Monday morning. So Monday morning, new crashes come in. And then throughout the week, our staff has the ability to move those crashes around. So I apologize if there's still crashes within the lake or outside of Ohio at the moment. It takes us, depending on what's happening, we will get to those in time. But if it's older years, so 18 and older, please feel free to reach out to us or provide us hand logs, which we can provide that documentation on how to supply that to us. So you should be good. It should be live data now. And if it's not, I will put an IT ticket for you.
Okay, we've got just a couple more questions, and we are a minute over. For those who have to leave us, we completely understand. In the TIMS system, when I select Wayne County in a specific township, say Plain Township, then select View in Map, it brings up thousands of crashes for the entire county. Can it be narrowed to just Plain Township?
So in this township box, I get where you're calling this. Oh, if I spell Plain right. So you can see Plain Township is for Wayne County here, specific to just Wayne County. So in Ohio, there's 4 Plain Townships. If you click just that one, only once. All right, let me start over just because, make sure I got the right one. I had this issue before, but it works like that in production. Plain Township. All right, there you go. Get rid of some of these. That should get you your county and your township together. So
they shouldn't select county also.
Correct. You can just select that township. Just make sure you pick the right one, and it should get you to the right place. Hopefully that looks right.
Okay, next question. There are 2 coordinates in the crash report. Which one is more precise in terms of crash location?
Caroline and I hope that Odot one is more precise, which is the one closest to the left. We do provide out the officer's lat log, and you can see how bad that is at times and how it's not provided at times. They don't know that they're in North America at times, but so I would use the Odot one. I think that's what it's labeled. So yeah, the Odot lat long should always hopefully be positive and negative. Would be a really good side.
Where do you sort for bicycle crashes?
Good question. I like to use the find. I think it might have to be unit type still, because I don't think we created a bike flag. Oh, it's in crash type. It's in crash type. So our crash type still officially has bicycles as a crash type. So if there were any bicycle crashes here, same thing with pedestrian. If there was a bicycle or pedestrian involved, the only one that's higher than that is animal and potentially train. But then you select pedestrian and then it selects bicycle. So it will pick those up before it picks up any other crash type in our algorithm. So if it involved any of those units, it would show up as a crash type of bicycle.
What if you want a year from January through December to search for a location? I'm guessing they just want to know on how you would just search for that year, January through December.
So if you want 1 year and no specific months, you just leave your months empty, or don't select anything here. So that'll give you your entire year. If you want specific like work zone months, you could just select your work zone months, and that would only give you your work zone months.
Good job, Derek and Mike and Caroline, because I know you're in the room there too.
Hello.
We only have one question left, and that's when the recording's going to be posted. So if the recording was successful, I'll be posting it hopefully before I leave for the day. So look for an email later this afternoon. And I want to thank all three of you for presenting on the GCAT system, especially in light of the fact that it just updated this morning. We really appreciate the information. I know this is going to be incredibly popular with everyone who utilizes the system. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we sign off?
Nope. Thank you, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and end the webinar now. Thanks, everyone.